There have been a wave of stories about people being upset because their tax refunds are lower. And there have been people in the media, particularly in the progressive wing of media, acting like that if your refund is down, you're paying more in taxes. Their logic goes as such. Everyone pays the same amount of taxes no matter what. At the end of the year, you get a refund. Let's say your refund is $100. You were paying, X amount in taxes. Let's say your refund is $200. Your refund is $200. You go, wow, my taxes went down, so I got a bigger refund. That's not how this works. If you pay less taxes, then the amount you'll get back in a refund will be smaller. So what ends up happening is someone will point out, you'll see somebody say like, whoa, my refund's down. Did you look at your check last year? You'll notice in your paycheck that the taxes withheld are a little down, right? And they'll say, oh yeah, maybe like 10 or 20 bucks. I've noticed that for different pay periods. Add all that up. And that's what's missing from your refund. Now, there's a story going around from conservatives where they're claiming that Matthew Iglesias from Vox is bragging about deceiving the public. I think that may be unfair. And the reason for it is that Matthew Iglesias' tweet might actually be insulting the progressive media. I just kind of doubt it, and I can agree with conservatives to a certain extent. It does sound like he's gloating about it. So let's read the story. The Daily Wire. The media's terrible power summed up in one statistic. Who are you going to believe? Who are you going to believe? The mainstream media or your lying bank account? According to a new NBC Wall Street Journal poll, just 17% of Americans believe their taxes will decrease as a result of President Trump's 2018 tax cut. An additional 28% believe they will pay more, while 27% think they will pay the same, and 28% don't know enough to say. It's actually the smartest position. I'm not entirely sure. The vast majority of Republicans do not believe they will receive a tax cut. Just 33% of Republicans, 10% of independents, and 7% of Democrats expect to keep more of their money. Worse yet, even among core Trump supporters, nearly 2/3 do not expect to save on taxes. Okay, taxes are down. Taxes are down, period. Okay, it's fact. Here's the thing. Republicans know this, Democrats don't. It says a couple things. First, in terms of partisan issues, when Trump says your taxes are down, a lot of Trump supporters or Republicans are going to believe him, and Democrats won't. I think we're seeing that. However, you could also point out, in this story, they're highlighting specifically that Matthew Iglesias of Vox is talking about how progressive media misled people. Republicans are substantially less likely to be deceived by this because they don't read or watch progressive media. So the poor Democrats are being lied to, and poor independents too. Well, let's carry on. No wonder the tax law remains unpopular. A Pew Research Center poll conducted last month found that just 36% of Americans approve of the law compared to 49% who disapprove. Beyond the realm of public opinion, reality tells a different story. A full 80% of Americans will receive a tax cut under the Republican tax law, according to a report by the Nonpartisan Tax Policy Center. A tax cut can be a good thing for some families, but it might not necessarily be. It's a complicated issue. Raising taxes on people can actually hurt you in terms of tax revenue. Cutting taxes could actually increase tax revenue. But it is very challenging to know how and when because there's more than just these factors. It's also important to point out that with tax cuts initially, government revenue will likely go down before trade volume picks up, which means the debt might go up. It's really complicated. It's really, really complicated. It might actually invert. I tell stories time and time. I've told a story over and over again about how there was like some hardware store in Chicago in Cook County that moved to DuPage County because the tax increase, ever so slightly, was turning into tens of thousands of dollars for local businesses over the year. And they want to save that money. It meant less tax revenue. Anyway, long story. We'll read on. So how did so many Americans miss their tax cut? Such is the power of the mainstream media, which amplified ad nauseum the lies of left-wing politicians and activists. Leftist commentator Matthew Iglesias admitted as much on Twitter. We'll show the tweet. Nobody likes to give themselves credit for this kind of messaging success, but progressive groups did a really good job of convincing people that Trump raised their taxes when the facts say a clear majority got a tax cut. Nobody likes to give themselves credit for this kind of messaging, but Sounds like Matthew Iglesias is trying to take credit. He wants everyone to know that his messaging was successful in lying to people about their tax returns. Now, why in the hell would he why would he claim that's a success? Why is it a success that people are being lied to? Vox straight up saying they lie. I think it's fair. The point I was trying to bring up in the beginning of the video is that if I were to tweet something like this, people would take it as me being snarky and insulting progressive media for lying. But as Matthew Iglesias is a co-founder of Vox, which is progressive media, and he's calling it a success, it seems like he is taking credit. He thinks it's a good thing. And that's part of the nightmare dystopia. What do you do when you have of the three different political brackets, Republican, Independent, Democrat? Democrats are more likely to be deceived, substantially more, than the Republicans. Why? Well, ask Matthew Iglesias. Progressive groups did a really good job of convincing people that Trump raised their taxes when the facts say a clear majority got a tax cut. Messaging success, lying, and getting away with it. Goddamn. New York Times columnist Charles Blow warned the tax bill would appease the rich on the front end, punish the poor on the back, feed the weak to the strong. A front-page New York Times editorial declared, "It is not aimed at the middle class. It is at every turn carefully engineered to deliver a kiss to the donor class." The bill amounted to nothing more than a return to trickle-down economics and enduring line in which the wealthy are supposed to spend and invest their tax breaks, creating jobs and commercial opportunities for everyone else. Who would fund this big tax cut for the rich? Why, the poor, of course, with random increases in taxes for various constituencies. The Washington Post lamented how the tax bill went from worse to bad. Forbes explained it would blow up Medicare. NPR reported it could hurt graduate students. Media as local as the Kansas City Star blared in a headline, "Kansas Republicans claim tax bill will be good for the middle class. It won't be." Just about everyone, it seemed, would suffer from tax cuts. Who knew keeping more of your own money could be so painful? According to a Media Research Center survey, network news outlets paint President Trump in a negative light 92% of the time. Debate on the tax cut, Trump's signature legislative achievement that might have been a low-end estimate. Jonathan Swift observed that falsehood flies and truth comes limping after it, so that when men come to be undeceived, it is too late. Through story after story, from tax returns to Russian conspiracies, the mainstream media have peddled baseless lies to the public, sometimes years later. The truth manages to come limping along. How many more times will Americans let themselves be fooled? Well, check it out. Mostly Democrats. And this is kind of the point that I've been making. A video I made a couple days ago on my main channel about how if you spend time on Twitter, which most of these journalists do, as Brian Stelter of CNN said, journalists have an unhealthy relationship with Twitter. You are being fed extremism. It was a study on something else we covered on the Subverse channel, but my other channel. A video about how Twitter and digital media is warping our minds. It's lifting up the extremes and it's pushing down the moderates. The journalists then repeat these lies, and every once in a while, a glimpse of reality comes out from those who would seek to deceive and lie. Matthew Iglesias. Nobody likes to give themselves credit for this kind of messaging. Success. Progressives did a really good job of convincing people. And why? Well, because they want Trump to lose. Because it's not about what's good for the American people. It's not about the fact that you'll have more money to spend for yourself and for your family. It's about the fact that they just don't want Trump to win. Let's see how people responded on Twitter to the statement from Iglesias. Now, he did get a light ratioing, which is more replies than retweets, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. And as we've seen, we've already seen some of the people respond. Forget progressive messaging. It's all my friends who are paying more. Anecdotal beats facts. Another point, I don't know what they're trying to say in positive or negative, but it's also true. Many people in progressive media, and look, it's not unique just to progressive media, but it's another thing they do, where they take one tweet from one person and act like it's everyone. And no, I'm not talking about Matthew Iglesias, who is a co-founder of Vox, which is a progressive outlet. He is speaking as a leader in the space of progressive media, deceiving people a messaging success and a good job. I'm talking about going down to like Look, John Harwood's a verified individual, right? If I were to pull up his tweet, he's got 272,000 followers. This might be of merit. It's somebody who's active and working and has influence. He said they were helped by the fact that tax cuts for most people were A, modest, and B, concealed by new withholding tables that dribbled them out week by week in tiny amounts. And that's true. Now, if I were to go down to Tempe Tea Party and claim that this one individual tweet represented some big story, that wouldn't be very honest. Although, no offense, Tempe Tea Party, you have 95 followers. The point I'm trying to make is that they're not a politician, they're not affecting policy. It's someone expressing their opinion. Their opinion is absolutely valid, but it's not going to have a massive impact like Matthew Iglesias' will. We see this over and over again. And it's one of the ways they function outside of just pumping out fake news or using misleading information. I guess, one thing I've kind of stressed a lot is how you can use the truth to manipulate. Don't say to people, you got a tax cut. How do you convince people they didn't get a tax cut when they really did? Well, if you say something like, the media can't come out, the progressives can't come out entirely and just say straight up, you didn't get a tax cut. They'll say you're lying, although they definitely dance really close to that. But they can say some things like, it's a shame that Trump would hurt so many good tax-paying Americans who are now seeing their refunds dwindle and are getting less money back. It's a shocker because families need that money to be able to buy things they need, and Trump doesn't care. You see how you do it? You see how you can use the truth? Oh, your refund is down? Because you didn't pay that much in taxes. Your withholding is less. But John Harwood made a really good point. It was trickled out and people didn't see it. So now they really believe this. That may be the main reason. Let's say that's the main reason. People noticed their refunds were smaller and they didn't realize they were getting more back week by week. Well, Matthew Iglesias wants to make sure everybody knows progressive media did a good job pushing this success, lying to people. Welcome. Welcome to Politics in 2019. I'll have another video coming up at 4 p.m. on my main channel. Thanks for hanging out. I will see you then.